Hi there, my name is Paul Greyburn, and for those of you that have read my other blogs on Asperger's syndrome, you'll know that I have Asperger's syndrome, and B, I've written a book about my experiences called Walking on Broken Glass, and you can get that book on Amazon and at olympiapublishers.com if you're interested. What I wanted to talk about today was obviously mental health experiences and experiences of being sectioned under the Mental Health Act in the UK. Obviously there's a lot of comments on this on YouTube about people's negative experiences, and I could fill a video camera full more than once probably of negative experiences within the system, negative perceptions of myself and others, and how it hasn't really helped. But I guess I wanted to concentrate today on the positives, how being sectioned doesn't have to mean the end of everything, and you don't really have to despair too much. It's not very nice, and it's often shattering when it happens, and you think things can't get worse, but it's often the start of things getting better. And what I wanted to concentrate on is the attitudes of people that make it so crucially important. It can differ between a good experience and a bad experience in the system. Crucially, that's the attitudes of the staff, how they are with you, how they interact, and the attitudes of the police if they have to become involved to get you into hospital, or the attitudes of social workers, etc., etc. I have to say, when I was assessed at home, it was emergency assessment because I wasn't coping, and social workers came in, and they waited for the police to arrive, which is, whether it's correct to say it or not, quite typical for social workers to do. I was clearly not coping, and looking back now, I know that the only option at that stage was for me to go into hospital. So and it was a very stressful situation for me and my family, and it just wasn't fair on anybody, and it got to quite a desperate situation. The social workers came in, the police arrived, and they performed a mental health assessment, and the social workers and the doctor that came from local hospital, within the space of minute and a half, 2 minutes of speaking to me, decided that I was sectionable under the Mental Health Act. I was basically recalled because I was already on a section. So then I was handed over to the police, and the police from the start, I mean, I have had negative experiences before, but they treated me as an equal. They didn't treat me cynically or like a child, as if because I had mental health problems, or didn't treat me like I was going off my rocker when I quite clearly was, really, being totally unreasonable and irrational. But they treated me with the utmost respect, and they didn't make the situation worse. They didn't say to me, "Oh, you're a total nutcase, you're never going to get out of hospital." They sat me down in the car, and as they drove me to the hospital, they said, "Look, this isn't the end. Look, you've been sectioned, but it's for your own good right now. You're not coping at home. You're not as well as you were," because obviously they heard about how well I was doing when I was well. I mean, I had my own car, I was driving, and they said, "We want to get you to that point where you can drive your car again, where you can go back to college, and the world will be your oyster again." And I guess that mattered a lot, really, looking back, because if they'd have said, like I suggested before, if they'd have said, "Well, you're never going to get out, you deserve to be sectioned," and all the negative things they could have said and suggested, then it would have made me probably more inclined to give up, or to be feeling negative about things for longer than possible. Obviously, when you arrive at the mental health unit, particularly with the police, I mean, that particular unit I arrived at was just a low secure PQ, which is psychiatric intensive care unit, and the staff they take you to the part of the car outside the receiving area, which also has a seclusion room, 2 seclusion rooms, and a shower and toilet for people that have to be nursed in isolation. I wasn't nursed in isolation, but it's the entrance where everyone usually goes in, emergency admissions, etc. I walked in the unit, got out of the car, walked to the unit, and 3 or 4 members of staff there with rubber gloves and sort of laughing faces as if they'd seen the situation before, and someone very uptight. But you have to realise they have their ways of coping and managing as well. But as soon as they spoke to me, very, very reasonable. Did the least that they could do in terms of controlling me. They didn't restrain me unless it was absolutely necessary. Didn't, weren't sarcastic, weren't sinister. They did all the introductory things. They didn't judge me for who I was and how I was behaving. They just offered me medication and told me that this wasn't the end, and that just I needed some time to settle down to myself, get back to my old self again, and to work out what to do for the best. But they were supportive, and but I guess that perception, you go there and you see them with the gloves standing there, you think, God, what are they doing? They're going to search me or strip search me, but it's just for protection in case when they do a cursory pat down search usually, and if they find such sharp objects, it's just to try and protect them. But it can be quite daunting. You think, are they going to put me in a seclusion room? You're going through quite an old structured unit with the big locked doors of the seclusion room on both sides of the corridor, and you think, God, am I going to end up in a blurry fuse? So am I going to spend the next day and a half in a room the size of a dog kennel? But that didn't happen, and even when, in my experience, even when medication was necessary and I didn't agree to it, it was what I needed at that time, because I needed to calm down and be calmed down, because obviously I'd gone past the stage of being able to cope on my own. So the medication was given to me, and it wasn't, I was never over restrained, never over medicated. No more force was used than was necessary, and that can, when you come out of that very deep crisis, you think to yourself, hang on, they're supportive. They were supportive of me right from the start. That can have a very, very crucial impact on how you see things, and often how quickly you can get better. So I just wanted to focus on the positives, and if anyone else has got similar positive experiences, I think it'd be quite nice to sort of see how being sectioned, or how certain sections of the Mental Health Act and the services it offers, when done right, can have beneficial impacts. Well, I'm going to get going in a minute, because it's coming up to the 10-minute mark, but it's been great talking to you. Sorry if I've been rambling on a bit, but so I wanted to get it all down. Obviously these experiences are a lot better than having negative ones, because for me it was easy to cope, easier to come around and say I've got a future, when they were sort of telling me that if they'd said you haven't got a chance, you're never going to get out, it's going to take ages for a tribunal to release you, then that would have just sealed the nail in the coffin as far as my negative thinking was concerned. And let me know what you think, and obviously your experiences would be very great to hear. Okay, I'll talk to you soon more about the system and my experiences. Okay, cheers then, bye.